All right, welcome in everyone to another Doc Talk. Today we are here with Lee Fraser and John Print, and you will probably notice that Dr. Lashbrook is actually not here. So I think today is actually more of a John Talk than it is actually a Doc Talk, wouldn't you say, John?
Yes, it is, Ika. I'm no doc though. That's
Yeah,
the
that's
thing.
true. Yeah. No,
I'm stepping up to the plate, shall we
there we
say.
go. I love and great analogy it is as it is opening day of Major League Baseball today. So
I don't miss
we're
a thing. I don't
yeah.
miss a thing.
Look at you. You're just Johnny on the spot. Well, good stuff. Welcome in everyone. Again, my name is Ike. I'm here with Sports Management Worldwide, and just to kind of give you guys a little instructions and how this will work, we'll be doing some Q&A between John Print and Lee Fraser. And we would love to hear from you guys as well with your questions. And to show what your questions are, or to show that you have a question, click the raise hand button, which you'll see in the participants list. Click on participants, and at the very bottom of that list is a blue raise hand button. Click that, and we will bring you on live with John and Lee to ask your question, and we'll have a really productive and fun conversation. So, John, I will pass the mic over to you, and we'll take it away with Lee.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ike, and thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm going to ask Lee a few questions, but you can control the conversation. So if you do have questions, then please get them prepared. Raise your hand. There's also a chat button as well, chat bar. So feel free to type in there as well, and we'll come to you. So my name's John Print, and head of soccer for and international football for Sports Management Worldwide. My journey with Sports Management Worldwide started 20 years ago when I was looking to get involved in the football industry, and I was looking around the agency industry, and I am an agent at the moment. Really interested me, and I was one of Sports Management Worldwide's first kind of international students for their athlete management course. So move forward 20 years, and now it's great to see that we have over 40 courses with students from over 160 countries, probably even approaching 180 now. And the soccer courses that we run include agency, soccer scouting and management, and the analytics course with Lee Fraser, which I'm very proud of, and was probably, how many years ago do we introduce that, Lee?
Well, just babies, 5 years ago, John.
It was 5 years ago. Yeah. So and I helped Lee create it. So it's a course that's pretty close to me. So yeah, welcome, Lee. Thanks for giving up your time on Thursday evening.
Thanks, John. Thanks,
and it's good to see you're also sporting a good beard as well. I'm trying there as well.
If I'm honest, John, it's the lockdown beard, and I've got lockdown hair, so I'm hiding it.
Yeah, let's keep the hair alone, eh?
I haven't been out for such a long time in the UK. It seems to be ages.
Yeah, and you've been really locked down, haven't you? In Newcastle for a long time. You've had the brunt of it.
Yeah, so northeast of, geographically in the UK, Newcastle's closest city to Scotland. We've really been through the mill. I mean, it's been 12 months of lockdown in various levels. There's always been a lockdown, so I'm dying to come out the other side, as I'm sure everybody is, and enjoy some beers with everybody and some socialness. Because that's
and get to watch some proper live football in a stadium, which seems an age ago since I actually did that.
For sure. So. I mean, it's great to see on the telly, but we can't replace it. It's the same as scouting. You've got to be there. You've got to have eyes on the players. We've got to, just exciting times when we can get back to it.
Yeah, definitely. So they say, a week's a long time in football, but you've been involved with Newcastle United for 20 years, weren't you?
Yeah, 20 years.
You must have seen an awful lot of change and ups and downs, highs and lows.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I started at Newcastle United full-time in around about 2000. A couple of years I had before that doing what I class as my apprenticeship in football, in soccer, if you like. Because 1998, 1999, we didn't have anybody with who was teaching courses on what I was trying to do. I was lucky enough to get involved with Middlesbrough because I worked for a tech company who was developing coding software, which is how all the data gets generated these days, albeit by loads of different companies. So back in the day, 20 years ago as well, you know, trying to educate players, coaching staff, managers with data was very, very difficult. Also, we were on, I'm showing my age here as well, VHS videotapes. So it was play, fast forward, rewind, just to edit out the segments that we wanted to have a look at, you know, and feed that back. These days, the technology moves on such a pace. We have everything's available instantly, you know, whether that be a digital video via Y-Scout, which is what we cover on the soccer analytics course, and the data sets which are available en masse. You know, it used to take me a day to do, literally a full day to do, to watch 2 games, you know, play, pause, take out the set pieces, do a report on them the next day when I would have everything chopped out. Now, it's from that respect, it's a lot easier these days. But with the big data, it becomes a little bit more difficult because, you know, if you're delivering the wrong information, it can be catastrophic. You know, so being able to work with the data, being able to find insight with the data, also know what's good and what's bad. It's just as important to know the things to avoid as it is to know the things that perhaps are looking for. And again, that's something which I enjoyed in the latter years of Newcastle from a recruitment point of view. So performance analysis for probably about 5 or 6 years, and then the rest of the time was working in scouting and recruitment. On a data point of view.
On a data point of view, good. So there's like that kind of career progression there into the data, and that's what really, you know, that's what really, you know, excites you. And I know that from spending time with you. You're very passionate about the data, and especially, you know, I've never met anyone who loves Excel spreadsheets so much.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to argue with that, John. I mean, what I will say in Excel's defense, because I love it, I used to think Excel was for accountants, didn't have a clue really too much about it. And it wasn't until we started collating the information from one game, adding another set of information from another game, and starting to build up a database, and then finding out how we can use tools like Excel to kind of mine that data, and we can look simply at averages, we can do counts and things like that. Move forward to today, where kind of obviously Excel still has a part to play, but we're now looking at things like BI tools, which is just next level, and it helps you aggregate all of the data, which we can come on to, I guess, during the talk.
Good stuff. So, you know, I guess when you started out, especially in the data, there were a lot of kind of skeptics about data, and now kind of not just in football, but in sport and well, in the world, really, you know, data is the most valuable resource, isn't it? So if you could talk about some of those challenges early on and how that's kind of changed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we touched on it a little bit there, and it's not fair. If you think about it, the way the world is going at the moment, we see all of the information that's coming out, or the misinformation that's coming out about the COVID pandemic, how everybody's interested in it. And it's there's definitely answers and there's definitely insight, and of course we can make information in a certain way with data. So we have to be careful of that, of course, and again, not just in football, but we talk about the challenges as well. I think one of the things is trying to educate people to become data literate, to understand why we're using a certain graph, or why we're using a radar chart or a box plot. To get the most information, also to know perhaps what sample sizes to avoid, because it can create kind of a skew in the data. So we kind of go through all of that now, right at the start of it in its infancy. And I have to say to everybody here, who thank you for attending as well, I'm self-taught on the data. I was an analyst working with video, generating data sets, knew there was insight there, but didn't quite know my way around and how to get it. So I locked myself away in the office at Newcastle for many hours at the end of the day, trying to understand and work with it. networking with people, reaching out to the right people who can help me with data and help me understand and interpret it. And we'll talk about that networking being a huge part of anybody's career these days, I think. The challenges in the early days, if you talk about, you know, and I don't mind talking about this, you know, you go to Sir Bobby Robson with some information. We're giving information of Alan Shearer, Gary Speed, the big names at Newcastle United at the time. It's, you know, they look at you as, well, you're not a player. What are you talking about? So very, very quickly, it became apparent that we've got to pick and choose the right times to deliver the information at that point. Make sure that we can get the coaches on site by giving them useful information that they want, and to try and get a buy-in from that. Okay. So it's a case of sitting down with the manager, and this hasn't changed, by the way. When we get a new manager at Newcastle United, I would want to sit down with the manager and say, okay, what's important to you? What is it you're looking for a player? What's important from your game plan? Therefore, we can go in and mine that information from the reports that come in. So the challenges in the early days were that nobody had a clue about what to do with data and how it works, and was it useful, was it not useful, myself included, you know. And what I mean by that is I have to go down a lot of rabbit holes and ask a lot of questions to find out the wrong answers, to go, we know not to use that, and we can then shorten our research because we know what to avoid. So fast forward to these days, we've got top managers, top players coming through these days who have been used to being fed that information data through academy systems, through under 21s, through under 23s. In 1998, there was nothing in any academy, certainly in the Premier League in England, that I'm aware of. I think Bolton were doing first team with Sam Allardyce, and Middlesbrough, where I was working, was doing the first team with Brian Robson and Viv Anderson. So it's been a long process, but definitely it's easier to deliver the information. Lads come sign for Newcastle or come up from the academy. They know what a recruitment meeting looks like. They know what a data meeting looks like. They know what a video meeting looks like. They know what to expect, you know. And I have to also say that, you know, data is not there to dig people out and say that you're not doing your job. Although it can be, the same way as a video can be used. It's there to back up and support the information that the coaching staff and the managers are using to deliver their presentation. Okay, and from a recruitment point of view, we're using it to access data sets of databases of maybe 150,000 players, creating a set of key performance indicators or KPIs where we can narrow that field down, and then create a reasonable amount of scouting that can go ahead, because it's impossible to scout 150,000 players, or even 1,000 players, if you like, you know, to bring that to the table. So data has a great part to play in all parts of the game, recruitment, first team. But what's great about this now, John, I think, is because data is so huge and so interesting, see so many people want to upskill themselves with courses during the pandemic. It's what it's doing is it's creating more educated, more data literate people, and find a place for them in the game. And it doesn't have to be top level. It doesn't have to be international level. It doesn't have to be Champions League or Premier League. We've got the academies. We've got volunteers working on data with non-league football. We've got the women's game coming through. Data is available on the women's game now. So there's all sorts of roles appearing in data in football now, which is just so good to see.
Yeah, and that was going to be one of my kind of follow-up questions, actually, Lee, was that, you know, with more people kind of educated in data, and, you know, data being available, I guess, for all, really, because there are different, you can pay an awful lot of money for data, can't you? But also there are quite a lot of free resources as well for say lower league clubs, or if they can actually identify what kind of key areas is important to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. I mean, we can find some useful information on internet right away. There's a company called Transfer Market have some fantastic player information. When we're talking about performance data, well, this is the data gatherers and the data collection that's coming on the larger companies like Instat, like Y-Scout, like Sci Sports, Opta, Perform, Stats. All of these guys are producing great information the performance information, but also we've got the physical information. So we're looking at the energy levels of the players, the conditioning of the players. I mean, we've even got fitness analysts now in the club that work solely with the data on fitness, nothing to do with performance. So back in 2000, I was spinning a lot of plates, dealing with all of this information. Quickly, it's just exploded, and there's positions all over the place for analysts in different areas. The physical profile, sorry, not the physical data, what I call the profile data or anthropometric data, if you like, is readily available. We can get that on for free on the internet. So when I took things like height, weight, date of birth, nationality, passports to a certain extent, things that aren't really going to change too much. But then the performance data, I think we're looking over 2,500 events per game, per team. Okay, so this is, you can imagine by the end of the season in the Premier League, or by the end of the season in the world, how many data points are created. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And the key for me is bringing it all together, having a system that will work with your profile data, with your performance information, with your physical information, the condition of the players, but the scouting information as well, which is really where the eyes and ears are collecting the information. So rather than just using the data providers, using a team of scouts to gather and harness the information, which is super important.
Yeah, because you mentioned Sam Allardyce earlier, and he does get a lot of stick for his style of play, but he was one of the first people that really took an interest in data, and especially the sports science side of things, wasn't it? And and he's always been kind of keen in that area. And I guess a lot of other teams have probably looked at it to begin with and said, it's not for us. But slowly the amount of roles, and we've mentioned it earlier, have increased. So if you want to become an analyst, I guess some of the advice is there's lots of different areas that you can get into, but it's to try and identify where your passion lies. So if you're a new kind of analyst looking to get a role, where would you say the starting point should be?
So the starting points, of course, are going to be with your education pathway, looking to upskill yourself with courses. And also, I think, looking around a lot of the job applications for business in the UK, they're looking for coaching licenses as well. So if you've got your C license with the FA, so you've got some knowledge of football, you understand what's going on the game. If we can bring that to the IT or the information side, to bring that together, so you have the knowledge of football, you've got the knowledge of the IT side, that's a really good place to be, and I think, what is important for me, in my experience and seeing the development of others, is that we never stop learning. We are always looking to continue our education, okay? Because particularly in technology, things change very, very quickly, okay? So it's always good to be on the lookout for the latest, just to keep yourself upskilled on the latest trends, the latest platforms, programs that we can work with data. And a lot of that can come from, if you're not able to work in football and upskill yourself on the job, can do from conferences and from networking and from reaching out to people,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
That's the way forward.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Lee. Now, in the course, we work quite closely with Y-Scout, which is a fantastic platform, now owned by Huddle, which which is another completely different side of the business, really, what they do, more geared towards, how would you say Huddle is? Is it geared to, is geared to all, isn't it, really? Even
so I think Huddle are the work on the visual side, capturing data, event data, normally in my experience has been by the analysts in-house who learn how to code a game, learn how to create this event data, almost like scouting the game, creating the data. So we have, for example, some information coming from Y-Scout, some information from Opta. We're going to use some simple expressions here. Pass completion, crosses into the box, passes into the final third. These are available from the performance companies. When we want to start to look a little bit internally and if we're going to try and align the information to the game plan, what we're doing. We have analysts having to code the game, creating their own set of statistics, which you don't see generated en masse by the bigger companies. They're really specific. So with a platform like Huddle, you're able to create your own event data and keep it all in-house. So it doesn't necessarily get shared, passed on, using that for feedback to the players and staff. So, and I think you might know better than me, John, actually, Huddle do things like basketball, rugby, they do all sorts of sports, because the theory behind what's going on is exactly the same. We have a video feed, we have a timeline of events, which is in football 0 to 90 minutes, and we have space to create event data all along. So the program itself works across any set of video feed. It doesn't even have to be sports, you know, but it's a fantastic tool.
Yeah. And, you know, Wisecout is a tool that's widely used in the football industry. And, you know, it has some very impressive tools. And it, like you said, you know, it's moved away from the VHS times. And things are available instantly, aren't they? And it's, you know, can you just give a little bit of an overview of Wisecout?
Yeah, sure. So Wisecout's owned by Huddle Company, and I think it came out of Italy. It still, I think, has its head office in Italy, in Chiavari. And they were, I think they were originally selling DVDs between Italian clubs, sharing them. And then it came to the point where we can actually code and create event data from these videos. More and more companies, more and more clubs got involved. And I think I was told last week as well, Richard Trafford, who works there at Wisecout and Huddle, when he started to work for them, I think there was four clubs in the UK who had Wisecout. And then I think by the time he left Wisecout and went further up the chain at the Huddle, there was only 4 clubs that didn't have Wisecout. Yeah. So he did a fantastic job in terms of marketing it as well. So the platform itself, in an overview, we'll talk about event data. Well, these events are linked now to videos. So if we want to have a look at all of the shots on goal, okay, by any of the strikers at any club in the world, we can just type in the club, we'll type in the name of the player, we can select from our event data, well, I'd like to see all of his crosses, I'd like to see all of his shots on goals. Or if you're a Newcastle fan like me, I can choose only Newcastle. I say, let's have a look at all of Newcastle's goals. I tend not to look at all of the goals that Newcastle have conceded anymore, you know, to not get depressed, but we have that option as well. And as an analyst, if you're working in the opposition, of course, that's a lot of, you'll be looking at a lot of events like that in terms of making notes of why and how the goals were conceded and feeding that back up the chain.
Yeah, and during the course, you know, we do look at Wisecout quite closely, and we look at best practices and how to use the system. Yeah, and also, you know, how to tag video, which, you know, can be used, you know, that kind of learnings from that can be used in other software as well, can't it? Because it is about best practices.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Wisecout package does have an area where we learn to tag and create our own tags. It's very limited, if I'm honest with you, from what you get from the larger Huddle packages. But what I say to the students all the time is, it doesn't matter, because what we're doing, we're giving you the skills to learn how the event data is created. So you have a knowledge and an understanding in terms of what goes on. And you're tasked with creating some we call playlists, where we help you create a playlist from a game from yourselves. So you've learned the whole process of analyzing a game, chopping it up into aspects that are important, and then being able to streamline that and watch that in a 1-minute clip, for example, or a 2-minute clip, or however long it be. And also in the Wisecout platform, they have a really, really useful tool in terms of overlaying graphics on top of the video. So many times when in the early days before we had this, we'd sit down and, you know, a video clip would flash up, and what clip am I watching? What's this relate to? So being able to put a title on it, being able to circle or highlight areas of the pitch really draws the viewer in, which helps really push the message, I think. So we'll learn how to do that on Wisecout as well.
Yeah, and that actually raises a really important point, Lee, about, you know, working with data. Even if people who you're delivering it to believe in data, they may not actually understand it. So the presentation even if you're working with kind of young academy players, a local side, you want to try and improve their game, the presentation is everything, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. We talk about a little bit about it in the course as well, about infographics, about how to use graphics, quantitative and qualitative information in your delivery. Okay. Also, I think it's important to point out it's not always about what you must put on this information, because believe me, it changes from manager to manager, and if it changes from manager to manager, it will 100% change from club to club, because they have different budgets, different constraints, etc. So I always, and I make no apologies for saying it again and again, we must sit down with the coaching staff, we must sit down with the manager or your line manager to ask the questions. And that's what a good analyst does. A good analyst will ask questions. Okay, and I think that's kind of how I fell in love with my role, because naturally I'm a person who likes to ask questions. So as I became an analyst and I was looking at events and actions on the pitch of football, I kind of fell into that role. And I thought, yeah, this is definitely the role that I want to do. And it wasn't really until we started generating those bigger data sets that I was getting a little bit more excited about what I was doing.
Yeah. Thanks, Lee. Another kind of question, which is a little bit about, the media and fans, and how like television broadcasters and radio and newspapers actually have started to use more and more data. What is your view on that? Because there's some statistics, like the possession statistic. How relevant is that now in today's modern game? Do you think it's good that they're using more data and XG and all this kind of business? Do fans truly understand it? What's your view on that?
There's a lot of points in there. I'll try and see if I can get them. I'll see if I can get them covered. First of all, I think it's great that the media are making efforts to use data and support what they're doing. So it's nice when we see some of the companies, the media companies, and we have the guys on the piece of the camera, the ex-professionals, talking about the game, and we can see data that backs up what they're trying to say, which is fantastic. What I sometimes take issue with is just the generic data that will go up there, and it's almost like you're expected to accept that that's right or that's wrong. You talk about the possession stat as an example. If a team wants to play with possession, great. They want to have control of the game, and they have a high possession statistic. That's fantastic. If it's a little bit tight, or the opposition manager the game plan is allow them to have the ball, they will have more possession in the game. So for me, a little bit more context if possible. Now, I understand that the media don't know what the game plan is, but it's just an example of, I like to see a little bit more context rather than just 56 possession, 44 possession. We need to have a little bit more like that, and that comes from the guys who are doing the piece to cameras, the ex-pros. Like to see them support and explain that statistic. But again, we're slowly getting to the period where these ex-players are starting to work with data and understand data. But also, we see some great journalists. I see some useful information coming out of The Athletic, which is a website which I think we have to subscribe to. The journalists there do a really good job working with data. Read quite a few of their articles, and I think they're doing a great job. So more of that, please. And it could be that some of us here, some of the students here perhaps want to go down journalism, and they want to use the data aspect to kind of back up the stories. For me, that's a great approach.
Yeah, and there are some really good blogs out there as well, aren't there? Some independent blogs, which are good read as well. From a kind of agent's perspective, do the agent course. Something that frustrates me, which is very similar, is, and the media have got better, is when they're actually explaining how a transfer works and how a transfer fails. They're getting the regulations a lot more correct than they used to. So there used to be a lot of misinformation out there, which used to frustrate me, and I'm sure it used to be the same for you, Lee.
Well, from a recruitment point of view, John, I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous sometimes in terms of what they think's done well, and where there's not been any success. And I'm not saying they're getting it wrong, but I'm saying there's always a bigger picture and there's always a story. So when we talk about perhaps the success of a player, then everybody wants results on the pitch, and that's very, very difficult to do at most clubs. Let's be honest with you, to sign a player and do really well. I mean, it's important to know how they're measuring success. Are they measuring success by 3 points, and are they measuring success by him becoming an under-21 international to an international? Are they measuring success by the player coming in for 1 million and selling for 10 million? And if it's not all of those things, then he's a failure. It's really difficult to go with that one. An example, and I spoke about this last week. We had Andy Carroll at Newcastle United, and it's well documented that he was sold into Newcastle. Sorry, he was sold into Liverpool on deadline day a few years ago. And if I'm honest, it's well documented in the press. It was a bit of a shock. It was a shock to everybody that he went to Liverpool on deadline day, which means that you're left with a hole to fill, and it's out of contracts. And without going through Newcastle's succession plan at the time, we signed a player called Shefki Kuchi, who was a free transfer. And the press were, you sold Andy Carroll to replace him with Shefki Kuchi. Now that's in layman's terms, that's what happened. But the bigger picture, that's not the case at all. And in Shefki Kuchi's defence, I mean, what an excellent trainer, what an excellent guy, and what an excellent pro that brought something to the training ground and the environment that we're in. But of course, the spin from the press, it's difficult. It's difficult, but it will be. But I do see good news and good information coming out in the press as well. So it's not all doom and gloom.
It's not all doom and gloom, yeah. So read between the lines. That's what I always tell people.
Yeah, I think
so. So Lee, let's touch on that kind of transfer market now, and your kind of role in that. I guess you're planning quite a way ahead in the future, scenario planning a lot.
Yes, yeah, for sure. So at a football club, there'll be a succession plan. And within that succession plan, you would have the full squad. You would have the under-23s below that, perhaps the 18s below that. So then each transfer window, if you've done your work right and you're prepared, you know what's coming through, or perhaps that you're going to lose a player to the African Cup of Nations, or that there's a bid from Liverpool, for example, to say that this player could be going. So it's working with that succession plan that drives the recruitment process. So we know what our targets are. We're making sure we're scouting in the right areas, and we're scouting hard over the next few months to get all the information in as we can. One of the approaches we'll do as well, we'll do what's called gap analysis, and that would be looking at the squad and looking which of your squad will be out of contract in the summer. So let's say we have 2 central defenders out of contract in the summer. Well, surely that's a starting point, because we have to make a decision. Are we going to renew those guys? Are we going to let them go? Are we going to scout? So it really drives and directs your recruitment, in terms of what you're doing. And that's when the data comes in. So you use data to create the succession plan, and an analyst can be tasked with that to give to the sporting director, or the sporting director may have something in place. Then the analyst will be working through crunching the numbers on the KPIs, or the key performance indicators, to find players which achieving the benchmarks of the data for those positions that you have in the squad. Okay, filtering it through, creating information portfolios then for the coaching staff, the manager, the chief scout, whoever it may be, who's the decision maker at the club, to have a look at that information. And again, finding a good player is the easiest part for me. It's what you've got to do behind the scenes. Does he fit into the style of play? Are his wages going to be okay? Does he fit into the cost model of what the price point what we're trying to get, or the budgets that we have for players? Does he want to come? There's so much to come in. So I also think, just touching on it as well before, we can't measure, as an analyst, we can't measure success on excuse me, the 3 points on the Saturday, or signing a player. There's so much more to it, and there's so much so many more people involved in the process, you know. So it's great as an analyst if you've identified that there's space, you know, they only put one man on the post and we get up the corner and we score. Because of that, I mean, that's fantastic, but it's certainly not, I mean, that's once in a blue moon, things like that happen. So you don't measure my success like that. What I think is important to do is set goals and set targets for yourself, but also be set them by the management staff or your line manager. Difficult ones, but achievable ones, and recognize your success all the way along to come out the other end, you know.
Good stuff. Thanks, Lee. Right, we've got a couple of questions. If you do have questions, then we would love to hear from you. So please just raise your hand or type in the chat bar and we'll come to you. Let's go to Peter now. Peter, welcome.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, guys.
Tell us where you're calling from and then give us your question, please.
Yeah, I'm from Hungary, Budapest. I'm an economist here. First, I want to tell that this course looks really good on the topics. But what do you think, if we enroll this course, where are we going to stand in the process of getting a job for a football club, and what should we do after we enroll the course to get this job or get a chance?
Sure. Great question and completely relevant and fair question, I think, Peter, if I'm honest with you. Of course, getting a qualification will not guarantee you a role in football for sure. But it's definitely my aim from the analytics course is to give all of the students who come on here a toolkit, an analytics toolkit that they can use to sometimes start their career or to further the career. For me, it's about networking, working with others in the game, and I think the peer review process on the SMW courses is really good for that. I always say to students, this is your starting point. This is either, if you're not in a network, this is the first part of your network. You're all here, you're all from different areas of the globe, able to share information with each other. Okay, let's do that. The next step, Ren, once we create coursework, I think as part of the course, we have some informational interviews. So you get a chance to reach out to people in the game, okay? You're building a relationship with others in the game. It's about asking for feedback on your work, okay? Not demanding feedback, but being very sensitive in your approach to getting feedback. So the course for me is a huge part of being able to get a role in football, that and many other courses. I think the English FA, they do talent identification courses, which is really, of course, really important. And the thinking behind that was the coaches have a license and certification program. So you have your C license, your B license, your A license, and your Pro. The scouts didn't have anything. So what they've done is they obviously recognize the importance of education and where the next lot of scouts are going to come from. So it's about taking the courses, upskilling yourself, giving yourself as much information as you can, getting the feedback and networking, and trying to remain positive by achieving, like I said, achieving those goals that you set yourself.
Yeah. And Peter, you know, by doing the courses, we help you get on, you know, start your journey into professional football. So we will give you the know-how and also the know-who. Lee mentioned those information interviews. Some people will do lots of interviews, you know, over 10, because it's a lot easier to be a student and to get feedback than being a job hunter. You know, we also encourage you to build your kind of portfolio, kind of a body of work, which you should go on after the course and continue to develop and continue to network. Also, we will help you developing a professional resume, which will showcase the course and also make it more kind of international football focused. And also we can be references for you as well. So we provide all those things, and obviously you can be part of our network and ask for advice as you go through your journey, because, you know, we've been around for over 20 years, and as you can imagine, we've had thousands of students who have done our courses and be successful. Otherwise we wouldn't still be here. Okay, so it's very much like any course, it's down to you. but we'll give you those core skills, Lee, won't we?
Yeah, for sure. And what I will say, and even it's funny that we're talking about this right now. This morning, I got a thank you from one of the students who's just picked a job up working at an agency. So it's, for me, it's so rewarding to see the students getting back in touch, because I always say as well, after the course is over, you know, I'm still here for the students to support and help them whenever I can. So the fact that they're taking time out to say, thanks again, Lee, letting you know I've got this course. I'm working with the agency now, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without the course that I did with you is great from a personal point for me, but of course obviously from the person who's managed to get on the course of the agency, get the work with the agency. So it's really good news.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you. We do have another question. Calvin, are you able to ask your question? Would that be okay if you mute your microphone?
Hey, Calvin.
Calvin? Okay, there we go.
Hi, good afternoon,
Hiya.
Calvin Tuesday from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. Now, during this period of restricted movements due to COVID, has that impacted the gathering of data? And what is your recommendation for those of us who are now looking to go into the field?
So yeah, from in terms of gathering data from a scout's point of view, it's been difficult for scouts to attend games, particularly in the UK. It has happened, but I know that not all of the scouts have attended. For example, Newcastle have had all of the scouts on furlough, for example, so they haven't been attending. But obviously the restrictions means that. But because the top level games are still being filmed, okay, and clubs have analysts who will go and film the games, which means there's video. And if there's video from the game, these are that's how you're able to generate the data points. So you're still being able to generate information from a performance point of view from the club, the companies such as Instat and Y Scout. So if the game's being filmed, if the game's being televised, there'll be data available somewhere. At the moment, yeah, of course, it's difficult for people in and around the club environment, because there's a lot of unknowns in football. I myself left Newcastle a month before the pandemic, not expecting certainly this, and it's put everything that I was doing on hold in terms of the player identification, getting the contracts, and the education side. But I would have to say probably the last 2 to 3 months, things are picking up again. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel, I hope, which means that, and it's been such a good time over the past 12 months to upskill ourselves, because we've been at home with not a great deal to do, apart from myself, who had 2 kids to look after full time, which has been hard enough. But we use that time to upskill ourselves and go on the courses, so that as football picks up or soccer picks up and comes out the other side, we're in a position there where we've got all these all of these tools and a skill set, which hopefully we can then get into the clubs and the lower level clubs who perhaps might be looking for analysts in its infancy, if you like, in a younger club or lower level club.
Thanks a lot, Calvin, for that. Just before we go to Maxwell, just got an interesting question, actually, Lee, about COVID and performance. It's not just in football, but we've seen some strange results across all sports when their fans haven't been in the stadium. Do you think that's going to affect the data at all? And decisions on players' performance when fans are back in the stadium and there's the pressure? Are there some inflated stats? Are players overperforming and some underperforming?
I think there's some. You've got something in that, John. For me, I'd have to look at it. I'd have to look at the numbers. But
I just came into my head that question then.
No,
so.
I think it's relevant, because obviously one of the key parts of recruitment is a player's character. Okay, trying to find the right character. So can we find anything through the data about a player's character or performance, whether he likes the big games? Okay, now for sure we can see that in a full stadium, and we can see it in a derby, to see whether he raises his game So yeah, something on the other side, the flip side, an empty stadium without somebody getting at them, without the fans getting on the backs of players, perhaps. Yeah, it could be. We could see some perhaps higher levels of performance coming through in those in this data, and it could be that this season will be struck off as an anomaly if we're looking for sort of character data, if you like.
Yeah. But I guess
it has to be less pressure on the players.
Yeah, less pressure. But I guess there's been a larger percentage of younger players getting their chance across the leagues as well. So in a way, that's a good side as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Whether that would be because of maybe a little bit to do with the fact that it's empty stadiums and it's kind of less pressure on them. But I also think there's value. Clubs now know that there's value in a young player playing in the first team.
Yeah.
Okay, so the more players we can get in the first team who are younger, there's more. We can maybe sell them for an extra zero. That's well known across the board now by clubs. The gems, trying to identify them early. Is kind of what a lot of clubs are able to do now.
Yeah, and different success criteria as well. Maxwell, welcome. Thanks for your give us your question, please.
Hi, Maxwell.
Yeah, thank you guys, Lee and John. Great information. Loved it. Real quick, so I'm coming from Seattle, Washington, and I'm just getting into coaching. I'm working with youth level and high school actually at the moment. I'm just wondering if this course is right for me at this time. You guys have been talking a lot about the higher levels. Could I use this the curriculum from the course to analyze, assess, identify local talent, and use use analytics to create player profiles that potentially I could send off to colleges or teams from my players at this point in time? Thank you.
I mean, that's a great question, Maxwell, and it's an important one as well. So it kind of touches a little bit into how I feel about scouting in the game, because if you're there, you've got eyes and ears on the game, on particularly the younger players who have no data points. There's real value in what you've got there because you're creating that information yourself. So yes, we'll talk about in the course about how to work with data, how to create a data set, what's useful, what's not. But we also look at what's important from a scout's point of view, what information they can put across. So you'll see some examples of player reports which have been I've created, which have been sent to me. We'll talk if a few of them, you can create your own again, and this is the things where you can share with the students with a peer review within the course. So for sure, you're going to learn things about the data, which is going to be useful, but also you're going to learn what's important information to put on player profiles that you could market those players for sure. Whether that you're an agent or whether you're trying to get them into college or a club,
Yeah. And, with my kind of agent hat on, I speak to a lot of different coaches, managers, scouts around the world. And information is with these talents that are, going unspotted, not having the information is where it falls down. So you need information to create a profile, Lee, and you need relevant information, don't you?
Yes, sorry, as I put the light on, it's getting a little bit dark in Newcastle.
Yeah.
I put the light, on. Sorry, just one more time.
So quality of information. So even for players, without the information, you can't promote a player. You can't prove. So video is important, but also you can generate your own kind of data points, which are relevant.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of comparing information and benchmarking, it's nigh on impossible, but that's not what it's about. It's about identifying what the strengths and weaknesses are of the player. I say weaknesses, it could be at that age developmental points, coachable points, which are important to the staff. So, and being able, again, we'll talk about infographics, being able to get that information in a presentable way that's going to catch the eye. It's got to catch the eye. And if you think about, I always say this to the students as well, when you're emailing for your informational interviews, or you're emailing, or you're trying to contact somebody, think about the time of day that they're going to receive it. If they're going to get it in their inbox at 9 a.m. in the morning, chances are they're not going to read it because it's the wrong time and they've got so much to do in the morning. Can we send it through maybe so it lands at the desk 4:30? So you've got a better chance of somebody picking up on things like that. So we'll talk a little bit about things like that, about general practice as well, not just data, but about how to work within the industry when people are going to be busy. You know, if you send it off at something at 10:30 in the morning, you want to reply, they're going to be out training, simple things like that. But, you know, it's simple to people who work in the industry, but of course, people outside, you know, they might not know. So there's lots of little things that we'll be able to pick up and I'll be able to help you with. And again, Maxwell, like I said, you know, for me, after the 8 weeks, it's not done. You know, you drop me an email and I'll do my best to help you. And if I can't, because I'm an honest guy, I always say, look, I can't, but chances are I might know somebody who can. And then it's about putting the two of you in touch. I have a library of ex staff who I've worked with, who I've reached out and said, look, would you mind? We have students from time to time, might need this. Can I send them? So we're queued up. They're queued up ready to be able to answer that. Maybe not straight away. So again, vast network and vast amounts of people which are going to be able to help you or help answer any questions you've got. You know.
Yeah. And we also got Matt Martin as well, who runs our soccer GM and scouting course and runs the scouting syndicate and is associated with Portland Timbers. You know, he's a great resource too, sure. And he's been closely linked with this course in the past as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, of course. I was actually did it at the same time with Matt. And what I tried to do is, I think it was on week 7 of the course, I get Matt to come on from the soccer syndicate in North America. He comes on, talks a little bit about his experiences and what he does. And it aligns to what Maxwell was saying there as well, because they're talking about scouting games with guys at college where there's no data. So yeah. Matt would be a perfect one there for you to link in with Maxwell. When he gets on the course, we share information, we share connections, and then you get a chance to speak to him and really pick his brains about what it's like at grassroots level, particularly over there in the US.
Yeah, definitely. Right, I'm going to go Peter, then I've got another question from Calvin. Peter, your next question, please.
Hi, Peter.
Yeah, so my next question would be that I heard different stories that how much coding like R and Python is important as a data analyst for a football club. What do you think? Is this important to know coding?
To know coding? Yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think it's very important, if I'm honest, because that is the starting point of gathering data. So it could be that when we're talking with a manager or a coach that he wants something specific that isn't available, either you aren't able to get the data from the game, from the company, could be grassroots level. So being able to code that game is really important, so you can generate video clips, because the code doesn't just generate a statistic, it generates those video clips. So we can say, I'll give a real live example. We concede a penalty in the first half in a game at Newcastle, and at halftime, the manager wants to see how he conceded that penalty, because he might want to turn around and say to the referee, that was never a penalty, or it was a penalty, or get some information. So that's a specific event that we'd have to code during the game. We've got that. The manager's going to come into the changing room, lots of shouting, lots of Lucozade bottles getting thrown everywhere. But you have that code ready to show the manager, okay, this is what you want. And I should say, okay, show me again. Yeah, well, I've done my job. I've done the coding, because being able to gather those clips live for me is very, very important.
Yeah,
that's one of the things that we will do in the course. We do 1 week. We show you how to do some coding, how to generate it. If anything, just so you understand the theory of how it works, which is really important.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Lee. And we do say, for most people looking to break into sport, it is a 2-course strategy. So we also do a data science and analytics course, which does cover R, SQL, and Python, and that's taught by Eric Kaplan. So take a look at that one as well. I think Ike's just posted it in the chat board there. Calvin, your question. We're quickly coming to the end, so if you do have any questions, then please feel free to raise your hand for Lee. I will be staying on a little bit longer after this session, just to answer any questions you've got about sports management worldwide, how our courses work, and kind of the structure of the analytics course. So I will be there after the hour. Okay, Calvin, your question.
Good afternoon. Now, I'm a coach trainer with the Caribbean Football Union. So what I'm wondering is, in terms of the design of the course, is the analytics course designed so that associations and academies are able to develop metrics for the development of young players between the ages of 11 and 23? Or is that based on player performance or some other course that you have?
So from my point of view, again, great question. From my point of view, what you'll do is you'll learn how to create a set of metrics or a set of KPIs out of the information that we get from the Y Scout package. So you get full access, well, not full access. You get, I think there's 6 league access to the Y Scouts, but we have full access to the data, so we can download and generate that. What I would say is, and I get this question a lot, if I'm honest, it's not up to me or us to tell you these are the metrics that you need in these positions. And I'll tell you why. Because I've worked for 13 different managers at Newcastle United, and each of those managers has wanted a different set of metrics for the same position, slightly. Okay, so I can show you how to do. We'll talk about some basic ones. Okay, why, for example, passing completion is important in some areas and not others. Okay, so I'll give you some guidelines, but I think for me to say these are the KPIs for these positions would be the wrong approach, because you're going to come up against a manager or a coaching staff who simply disagrees because they have a different philosophy on the game. And again, circling right the way back to the start of the program tonight, it's really, really important to sit and talk to the coaching staff and talk to the managers to say, what is it you want? But what we will do in the course is we'll show you how to generate that information, so that when you have had the question with the manager and the coaching staff, you know how to go to Y Scout and start to generate that information from the game.
Okay, good.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Yeah, and Calvin, from my experience doing opposition analysis for teams in the lower leagues in England, I've worked for numerous teams, and every time I do work for a new head coach, they have different requirements, the different things that they look for. So there's not like a perfect template. And even if, I guess if the guys, some guys may want to be agents as well. If you are looking to work with data and work with agency, which is a growing area, Lee, isn't it? You do have to try and apply the data to that club, and that's part of the skill, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I'll give you an example. So at the moment I'm working with an agency. They have a player who's out of contract. They can't find a club for him, which is unreal, to be fair, but that's the different set of politics. But what I will say is that we have this player with these attributes, and we go to one club and say, what is it you're looking for from a right back? You go to a different club, what is it you're looking for a right back? And so it's about trying to market the player that you have and finding the right club. So you need to find the club who's looking for the player that will fit into their style of play. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's really important that to know that the metrics will be different from club to club, for sure.
Yeah, and the style of recruitment
manager to manager,
from club to club as well. The style of recruitment is different from club to club.
Yeah, there's not one way of working. Certainly not one way that I've came across. Every time we had a new manager at Newcastle, we had to change something. So being flexible is a skill set that you have to be able to have to be able to kind of get a buy-in from the managers and the coaching staff as well. So we'll teach you. I think it's important. We teach you how to be flexible. Okay, so when you've created a set of data, how to get another set of data, how to change that, how to restart the project again, if you like. So it's always on an overview of what we're doing. So if anybody has any queries, we don't stop the class. We park it and we'll come to the end and say, right, well, let's revisit that. Because if we stop the class and took all of the questions at once, the hour session would be over. So what we do is we save those for the end of the class. And sometimes if there's occasions where people haven't been able to get it from the recorded sessions, I do a one-to-one. So we'll book some time in the diary. You get a one-to-one with me and we'll go over it just to make sure that you get it. And if you don't get it, we'll go over it again. So there's no worries about that.
Thanks a lot, Lee. And this hour session has flown by.
Quick hour, yeah.
I don't know where the time went. It was good fun. It was great to see you again, and hopefully I'll see you in person soon. And thank you very much for your time and stay well.
No worries. Best of luck, everybody. I hope everybody stays safe. John, Ike, everybody, SMW guys. I hope you're well, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. Have a good night.
Take care, my friends.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so I'm going to stay on for a little while. So if you do have any questions at all about Sports Management Wide, about the courses, then please feel free to raise your hand. So all of our courses are built over 8 weeks. We do Zoom video calls just like we had today. You know, it's the opportunity. We do have kind of core topics. So during the 8 weeks, we look at the changing role of analytics. We look at the Y-Scout system. We look at player analysis using analytics. We look at how to market players using analytics as well. We also look at opposition analysis, how to do opposition analysis using the Y-Scout system, but also using data as well. Knowledge and information management, that kind of administration, which may sound a little boring, but it's really, really important if you're looking to develop a career, to show that you're organized. And that's the kind of basis of the 8-week course. We have an online classroom called eArena, which you submit your work every week. We have 2-minute drills as well, which is designed to improve your knowledge, just to cement that kind of knowledge foundation from the books that we send you. The next course starts on the 12th of April. It's $14.50 US. We do payment plans. You can pay over Visa, MasterCard. Payment plans start over 3 months, starting at $495 US as well. We also offer economic discount for students that are studying in particular countries. So we all have an awful lot of information available on www.smww.com, and you can read a lot more about the course there. Okay, so do we have any questions that you'd like to ask me at all? It doesn't even have to be about the analytics course. It can be about the other courses that we run in terms of international football, in terms of sports agency, or even soccer GM and scouting, which I work with alongside Tommy Smith, and I run the agency course alongside Sky Andrew. Any questions at all? We've got a shy group. Calvin, no, we don't do a sports law course. The agency course that we do probably would cover all the kind of key areas in order for you to negotiate deals. So that's very much a sports specific course. We'd look at how to recruit, promote, negotiate and keep a client if that's something that you're interested in. We also look very, very closely at the regulations that FIFA have in terms of agent regulations, and also the regulations on the transfer and status of players. So that would cover things like transfer windows, how international transfers work and regulations surrounding minors, which there are some very kind of strict rules around. And actually, if you want to work as a scout, you want to work as an analyst as well, it is important that you do understand the kind of business side of football as well, because they will be components that you will need to understand when identifying potential talent. Okay, so thanks for that question, Calvin. Any other questions at all? Ike, is there anything else you want me to cover?
No, I think that's great. I was just going to mention that our next upcoming Doc Talk is going to be on April 6th, which is a Tuesday. It will be with name, image, and likeness expert Mark Eisenberg. We have that class actually starting up also here at the end of April as well. So very excited for that. And then also the Doc Talk following that will be the one on the business of esports with new instructor Michael Brooks. So those are kind of my final two announcements. And John, wanted to thank you for your time and love the conversation. I learned a lot. So appreciate you filling in for Dr. Lashbrook too. I'm sure it was a very much more in-depth conversation too, which is great. So we're very happy to have you on here, and thank you very much. And to everyone, thank you as well for joining us. The recording will be sent out tomorrow once it becomes available to us here in the office. And yeah, we will hopefully see you all on the next one. So enjoy your evenings, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you. Yep.